Full lights, start sound, camera, action. BabuKishan's spot.
My name is Ajmer Rodde. I am a writer, rather bilingual writer. I write in Punjabi as well as in English, and I was born in a rugged Punjabi village, Rodde. It's quite a while ago, though. It was just around the end of Second World War. During the Second World War, I was born in that village, and it was the first education I got was from our village primary school. My father was illiterate. My mother was illiterate. Very simple Punjabi people. My father was actually he did carpentry and other work and farming as well. And I was born in that kind of environment where there was a lot of colloquialism in the language, lot of humor in people's language. So that helped me later in my language, in my writing. And then also I went to high school in my village. After high school, I went to the city, the big city, Ludhiana, and joined engineering college actually. I was the first one, I think the very first one from my village to go to an engineering college. It was very, very, very difficult, economically as well as study-wise. However, I did made it. Yeah, so as I was telling, I had 5 brothers and 1 sister, so fairly large family. And now I wonder how my father got through all that large family. But anyway, I finished engineering in Ludhiana in a prestigious engineering college, Guru Nanak Engineering College. But at the same time, I developed interest into fundamental sciences. So what I did, I started studying sciences, and I wrote my first book in Punjabi on theory of relativity by Einstein. At that time, it was believed that only 11 people understand theory of relativity. So it was a youthful challenge. Why can't I understand it? So I undertook that kind of project. It's funny actually. I wrote the book in dialogue form. I was inspired by Plato's, style of writing in Republic. So the reason I wrote that book was I wanted to win a prize. I needed money. So I did finish the manuscript, but I was late in submitting the book. Anyway, a friend of mine submitted that book to Punjabi University, who gladly accepted the book to publish it and paid me more than double the award money. So it was great. I was invited by the Vice Chancellor, and I was very young at that time, 24, 23. So it was a good beginning, I would say, into a writing career, if I can say. So when I wrote that book, I called it Vishwa Di Nuhar, the structure of the universe. It was fun writing that book, but at that time I had also become assistant professor in engineering. So I was teaching in Guru Nanak Engineering College. And my inspiration came from actually my friends and my brother, my elder brother, who is just 2 years older. He was in Patiala. I was in Ludhiana, but there was a writers kind of collective living in a house, and it was called Pootvada, and it was very intellectual environment there where I used to go very often. So that was one of the inspirations. And my book was actually submitted to Punjabi University by Pootvada people. So, and another inspiration was one of my uncles, my mother's brother, who was very much involved socially and politically, progressive writer, taking part in plays and stuff and in peace movement. So he was another inspiration. Anyway, soon after finishing this book, I came to Canada. And in Canada, when I had finished that first book, Punjabi University had given me, they allowed me to write anything they would publish. They told me that you just write anything, we'll publish it. So in Canada, I went to University of Waterloo and got my master's in engineering. And after that, I got a job in University Victoria Computer Center. There, my inside flowered, actually. I lost interest in popular writing and got really deep into the fundamental sciences. So the topic I was interested in was physical basis of consciousness. So when I started working on that, I really got deeper into many disciplines like psychology, math, physics, biology, music, the rhythm, how rhythm affects our consciousness, how rhythm was instrumental in developing human consciousness, things like that. But after 3-4 years, I realized that the problem I'm working on will not bring any fruit. It was just far too complicated and difficult. And I knew that this problem was being tackled since Aristotle and other philosophers, and it's not solved. So anyway, my interest transferred to literature. I had been interested in literature before because I had written that book in dialogue form, fictional form. And I was also very much interested in poetry and other literary forms. So my interest shifted to literature. So I started writing poetry. My first book, called Surti, which came from consciousness, the word Surti, Shruti, you can say. It was very heavily influenced by my interest in philosophy and science, the first book. So, and then I started writing more and more poetry, and then I got interested into plays, drama. So, from University of Victoria, after spending there, I think 4 years, which were very good, 3 years, I went back to India, and I was offered a job there because engineers were very much in demand in those days. So I was offered a job, and I decided, well, what the heck, I would just stay back in India. But then I got married to another writer, Surjit Kalsi, my wife. She was news reader at All India Radio in Chandigarh. She also wanted to see the outside world. Being a writer, it's very inspiring to go out and see other countries and other cultures and other literatures. So we decided to come back for a few more years. And once we were here, I found a job quite easily in BC Hydro. And then we got our first child, and that's it. Then we got grounded here. and Sajit went to UBC for getting a master's in creative writing. So you could see that we got involved very much in writers here, English writers and writing, and that's how it all started. And then our daughter, she was quite bright too. Now she completed a PhD in philosophy actually, and is a professor in philosophy. And then we have one son, Ankur Neil, and he's doing pretty good in graphics and that kind of type of new technology kind of work. So anyway, then we got very much involved here in social movements like women's movement and anti-racist movement and farm workers movement. Not that much because I was working, but we were writing for these movements and taking part. I wrote my plays for women movement, Ek Kudi, Ek Supna, One Girl, One Dream. I got very much involved in theatrical productions and stage plays, writing and directing both. And at the same time, I kept writing books. It became a passion. I was engineer with BC Hydro, planning engineer, forecasting and planning engineer. But at the same time, I was writing all the time. So writing was the real passion, and engineering was, supporting the family, living. But I guess I was a good engineer too, because I never got, laid off or anything. Then after that first book, I wrote, my first book of poetry was Surti, then Shubh Chintan, and they were received very well actually. They were a bit different than normal writing, experimental. So I was the very first one to introduce surrealist writing into Punjabi, Dadaist writing, computer poetry and stuff like that. Then an important work I did was to collaborate with my brother, and we wrote a poetry book which is actually more than 1,000 pages. So, and we experimented a lot in that book. It had graphics which were all scripts from all over the world: native script, Tibetan script, Chinese script, old Phoenician script, Sanskrit script. So we also inserted these as graphics to illustrate that poetry is not only words. Script is also a kind of poetry. So also we wanted to make Gurumukhi script as part of the international world script. So I can show you in the book. So we did lots of experimental things in that book, and it was very, very well received. And the book was called a new classic, and some critics called it, the most, not the most, I shouldn't say, we use these words myself, but an outstanding work of 20th century Punjabi. So, but that was very encouraging. So, kind of encouraged to write more. And apart from poetry and drama, I also did quite a few translations. So one of my well-received translation is a Punjabi novel, Madi Da Diva. It's a modern classic. It's a very, very important novel. And it's based in a village, like my village, very rugged type of Malwa village. So I translated that into English, which was published by Sahitya Academy of India. And that book was, it, there was a lot of response to that book. Jeremy Munday is a well-known critic in America, so he included in his book the critical study of my book. It's called The Last Flicker, and there are 2 movies also made on it. So that was, and there's another professor in Punjab University, Rana Nayyar. He also included in his book a critique of the book, and that book was also criticized for dislocating Punjabi culture into North American culture, because the language I used was quite strong North American dialect. Because I wanted that book should be received not only in India but internationally. So I used this strong North American dialect, not the British, not the Indian English. Anyway, it was fun. Then I also translated Michael Bullock. He used to be a chair of the creative writing at UBC. His selected works into Punjabi. They're surrealist poetry. So it was called 101 Surrealist Poems of Michael Bullock into Punjabi. And then the last book, there are several other books in between, especially translation. I also joined 2 other poets to translate Tagore's Gitanjali. I think 30 poems out of it or something like that. And they translated very well into Punjabi because Tagore did the English himself. You know, he wrote it originally in Bengali, but he rewrote them in English himself. So they were like original in English, so you could translate them very well into Punjabi. So the other translator with me was Surjit Patar, who is now the most popular Punjabi poet, and another great poet, Mohan Singh. So Mohan Singh, Surjit Patar, and I myself, we translated that book, Tagore. Yeah, my latest book is co-written with our famous Punjabi artist Jarnail Singh. So it's a very recent book. It's on Kamagata Maru. Kamagata Maru incident actually happened in 1914. So in 2014, last year, its 100th anniversary was celebrated. So my interest, becomes more and more deeper and deeper into literature and art. And the more I write, the more deeper I get into it, the more it inspires me, the literary studies. What is literature? Normally we think. Now, literature is a writer gives order to human experience. But that human experience, that order has to be static. It's not a history. The creative writing is not a history. It's not a science. If there's an earthquake, the scientist would investigate its reasons. A history person, historian, would document the history. A writer would write to evoke emotion about it. It's only the writer, creative writer, that would put emotion, that would translate people's emotion into and share with others. Same way, a painter would paint the suffering, the pain, like literature. So the literature actually one of the principles of literature is to evoke emotional response in the reader. And it's very important, very significant, The other intellectual disciplines, they don't do. Only arts do that. So literature for me becomes very, very interesting. When you write something, you have an experience. You don't just express the experience, you recreate the experience aesthetically. So you write, you go through the emotional experience yourself, and then you transfer that emotional experience into words so that the reader also experiences the same emotion, same suffering or solace. So that's a bit of my story. I would say that I had a real good response from people, several prizes and stuff, although they don't matter that much to a writer. Talking of writing, I have been really involved in my writing. Especially, I would mention that my book Surti, written with Navtej Bharti, that really engaged all my faculties: emotional, spiritual, intellectual. That was where I, fully got engaged with literature, with the spirit of literature. So, and so I hope that our next generation also gets involved same way with literature or other arts. So in this digital age, this has suddenly dawned on us. And in the history, that changes happen all the time. But this end of 20th century has brought us a sudden burst of new technological devices, means. So the book is receding. The written medium that had ruled for centuries is now receding into other digital devices and means, internet. However, I would say you may be surprised to know that more books are being published now. There are more poetry programs happening. So what's happening is it's a very subtle change that's coming. That's environment. Issue of environment hides in it very creative possibilities, because it's anti-consumerism, which has pushed creative writing or arts, which has tried to push them back. But the environment movement is in favor of the creative aspect of human beings, of their spirit. We don't have that much time to get into it. Another movement is women's movement. Women's movement, in a very subtle way, is also very conducive to poetic aspect of human thinking or human doing, let's say. There's a poetry in women's movement. I mean, in a very subtle way, because female attitude towards nature, towards human life, is that different than male. So as women's movement gathers more momentum, becomes more effective, creative, that's my belief, that creative arts, poetry, there would be resurgence in these arts. So it's not, I want to say to our new generation, it's not all hopeless. There's a hope in these movements. So the only thing is, internet, Facebook and social media has made us very kind of superficial. We are always at a superficial level. We are going so fast. through information. We read a novel fast. We need to there's films very fast. So my message, if I can say, is that get deeper, get to the spirit of writings, of arts, and that getting close to the spirit of a literary piece, of a work, of a book would regenerate, that's difficult words, would refresh your creative faculties.